You're listening to Surviving and Thriving with Renisha, a podcast about life, mental health, and personal growth. Here I talk about my journey living with borderline personality disorder, depression, and anxiety, and how I'm learning to love myself despite it. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Renisha, and this is Surviving and Thriving. I apologize for not having been here. I have to say that a lot of unexpected challenges arose for me over the past month or so. And I know that this has been the case for a lot of people, which is why in this episode, I really want to talk about just some survival tips and reminders and things to get us through trying and challenging times. Quick life update. I've been having some issues that my doctor thought could be neurological. I had to go to the ER. I had like the worst migraine, and I'm not someone who's experienced like a lot of severe migraines, but I had a migraine that was so severe that it impacted my vision, it impacted my mobility. I was in so much pain I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, and I had weakness in my body, so I had to go to the ER, and then that was a whole thing. I have to get an MRI now, and so hopefully everything is fine. But I literally had a migraine for a week straight. I had numbness in my body. I had to get checked for a potential stroke. So lots of things going on physically in my body. And I've also just obviously when things like that happen, it impacts your mental health. So my mental health wasn't doing so great either. But despite it all, like I feel like I've definitely noticed where I've had the most growth and like my ability to quickly like overcome these difficulties. And if I do like get upset or if I do lash out or if I do get frustrated, like I can quickly pivot back to a state of love and apologize for anything that I have done wrong and just recenter and reground myself. So I'm really grateful that despite like all of the challenges that are happening in my life right now, and pretty much almost not all areas of my life, I've had some type of challenge come up. I'm really just grateful because it's in those challenges that you really get to see like how much you've grown as a person. And I've definitely felt that way. I've seen like all of the work kind of show itself. And I've definitely still had moments, but I want to say that I have navigated this a lot better than I would have like even a year ago. So, looking at the bright side of all of this, and I felt like I feel called at this time to share just some reminders for all of us during this collective transition that we're all in, where a lot is shifting, the energy, the tides are changing. It's so clear, I think, to a lot of people that things are shifting. And I see a combination of, fear, anger, and those who are continuing to stoke division. But then on the other side of that, I see a lot of people who are having awakenings and realizing so many things about themselves, or they're shedding old layers of their being. They're finally ready to do things that they've always wanted to do and just transform their lives, and they're optimistic about the future, and that's beautiful. But I definitely want to recognize that it can be a back and forth for a lot of us, of one day feeling optimistic and hopeful, and the next day feeling overwhelmed and anxious and fearful and maybe frustrated. And so I wanted to just share some reminders for everybody, because I mean, it's just a time that so much is happening in the world, and I hear it all the time online that so many people are sick of living in historic times. And I understand. I am a millennial. I get it. But at the same time, I'm being consistently reminded that life is life, and that throughout history, there has always been challenging times, and it will always look different in different eras. And so obviously there's some unique issues living in 2024, right? But at the end of the day, life is always a combination of ups and downs, highs and lows. And it's what we learn through the process and how we learn to navigate it and what we take from it. that I think matters, and how we treat each other too. And that's something I've been struggling with. And I think that during times like now, it's a huge, very consequential election season. There's a lot going on socioeconomic wise, political wise, and I encourage you to be informed, but I am not the one that's going to educate you on this podcast. Instead, I hope to offer some type of wisdom, some type of guidance that can help you in centering yourself, because I think that the only thing that we can really control day to day is how we respond and how we react. And if we can be loving and kind and compassionate and gracious with one another, then the world will be a better place. But if we choose to act out of anger and fear, we're really just creating more of the things that we're worried about. And so I just want to encourage you today to please take a deep breath with me. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine, okay? I want to talk about some of the things that I am continuing to remind myself and be reminded of for my own like spirit guides and for my own inner work, that I want to share in case it's helpful to those of you who might feel anxious, who might feel stressed during these times, or who might just like be like me and just juggling that up and down, the highs and lows, and just maybe you're in a season where you need a reminder, you need some strength. So first things first, do not feel guilty or ashamed for needing time to take care of yourself. This is a season where a lot is coming up. Again, when I say like things are tied, like shifting, the tides are shifting. Sorry, I cannot say words. When I say that, I'm not just talking about what we see externally. I'm talking about what's happening within each of us too. I think there's energy shifts happening as well. And I think that a lot of old patterns, a lot of old wounding, a lot of karmic issues, a lot of things that maybe we feel like have held us back in life, or experiences or things that maybe are unresolved, across a number of different things, number of different categories. I think a lot of that is surfacing right now, and I think it's an opportunity for us to release it and to become a new version of ourselves. And that can be so scary because we don't know who this new version is, right? We've only known what we've known so far. And it can be a challenge when you think that you've gotten far, and especially if you're someone who's been actively in your own healing and mental health recovery journey, you feel like you've gotten like 10 steps ahead, and now you feel like you're regressing almost, or you feel like you've taken 5 steps back because some old wounding has resurfaced, things that you thought you maybe got over. That's definitely been the case for me. There have been a lot of wounding that's come up for me that I was like, I'm fine. Like I've moved past this. I'm good. And then I'm reminded that there's so many ways in which these things can still impact us. For me, it's been physically. My physical health has been so up and down all year, as that's been the case for my partner as well. And it's just a reminder to me that there are things in there that are lingering, that need to come out. And this is an opportunity for that. And so if you're in a season where some unexpected things have just arisen in you and you feel out of sorts, you feel like you've regressed, even though I don't really believe really fully in that. I feel like we always learn and we're always growing, and healing is not linear. But if that's where you're at right now, I think the best thing we can do is have grace with ourselves and have grace with others, because it's part of the process of growing and healing. Again, it's not linear. So there will be times where you might think you've gotten over something, and then something comes and like punches one of your buttons, and you're like, whoa, okay, let me sit with this. And I think that my advice would be to sit in it, to sit in it. Don't push it away. I think that right now, the more we resist these things coming up, the more difficult the season will feel for a lot of us. That's just the energy that I am feeling right now. Is like the more I push back and the more I try to force things that I know aren't aligning and aren't working for me, and the more that I'm avoiding feelings or issues because I felt like I healed it and I don't want to deal with it. Whenever there are opportunities for past patterns to resurface, as much as I get sick of feeling like I'm being tested by God or tested by the universe, it's so necessary because I think that that's when you can really gauge how you've grown as a person, right? And so I'm choosing to view these situations and these things that are coming up for me as evidence of my own personal evolution, because these same issues are arising or these same problems are arising, but the version of myself and the way that I'm approaching these things now is shifting. It's very different. And I think that's the whole point, is to just be like, hey, are you sure you've grown and changed? And that's the perspective that's helping me. And that might not be helpful for you. But I did want to share that in case that does like offer a new way to look at the situation and the challenges that you may be going through. But I truly believe that just sitting in it and letting it come up and reflecting on it and just sitting and asking, like, what do you need? Like, what is it that I've yet to learn? Like, what, you know what I'm saying? Like, questioning those things, I think, can be helpful at this time rather than trying to push it away and avoid it or resort to some of the habits that maybe you've been really working hard to try to get rid of. And that's a challenge too. Um, I know I've talked about this in the past, but like I've struggled with things like eating, poor eating habits, or just like toxic patterns in relationships, especially as someone that is diagnosed with BPD. And when I can feel the urge to go back to some of those old habits, I feel like right now is a season where I'm getting like immediate karma, almost like immediate responses or reactions that show me this is not right. Even if it's just like a feeling inside of me, it's like, this is not right. You're not doing this anymore. You're not that version of yourself anymore. You are a different person now, and you're not going to approach the situation in the same way because you're not the same. That's the energy that I've been feeling a lot. And so I really want to encourage you to just feel whatever's coming up, but really think about who you are now, what you've learned, how much you've grown, and how you want to approach it, because you have the choice. You do have the choice, even if it feels like you don't. So I just want to remind you of your own power and of the work that you have put in up until now, because when these things comes up, they can feel like a failure or like a character flaw or like you've messed up in some way, but no, you're continuously learning and growing, and life will just continue to life. And now you just know you have the tools, you have the resources. And if you don't, you're figuring it out. You're learning, you're trying, and that is what matters. So let it come up. Let it come up. Don't resist it. Sit with it. It will flow through so much quicker when you do. And it does take so long to heal from things, especially if you have like severe trauma. So just be so patient with yourself, especially right now. There's so many factors at play now. If you're not feeling okay, that's completely fine and probably expect, considering the state of the world and all of the energies at play right now. So feel it, have grace with yourself. I also want to talk about tapping into support. I think at this time, a lot of people are realizing the importance of community or having people in your life that feel aligned and feel good for you, having relationships that feel good for you, and not being willing to settle for anything else, not being willing to, let people overstep boundaries. I think boundaries is always a huge topic, but right now I'm feeling it very strongly. I'm feeling that people are getting very selective with who they allow in their space and in their energy. And I think that's so important, especially right now. There is so much collective stress and angst and fear, as is the case with nearly every election season. But I think right now, especially, it's super polarizing. Social media can be a headache. So it is so imperative that you find people and that you choose to set strong and firm boundaries with those who aren't aren't aligning with you at this time or aren't making you feel good. That is completely okay. That is completely okay. I think there is a time and place for self-preservation, and I also think it's important for us to tend to our own well-being, and it's a form of self-love when we set boundaries, when we recognize that, I'm sorry, I don't need this right now. And maybe there are people in your life that you love dearly, but you just know that maybe a conversation with them or going to see them at this time is going to cause anxiety, stress, fear. It's going to trigger you in some way. If you are in a place, in a position where you don't have to engage at this time, that's fine. Please release any guilt that you have around that. I know how hard it can feel, right? Like I have to take a step back from chatting to my family at times when it's already a stressful season. I know that the last thing I need is to be in someone else's energy if I know that their energy could be rooted in fear or disappointment or grief. And it's not to say that there's not a place for that, because again, I am not a toxic positivity girly in the slightest. I think there's a place for every single emotion. But right now, I feel like being in my own energy, and that's completely fine. And so I have not been hesitating to tell people I need space or to take a step back. I've taken a step back from a lot of relationships in this season of my life because I need to focus on my own physical health and my own mental health. But that's not to say isolate, right? And so that balance is something that I've been working on. I have just recently started volunteering in a garden because I felt called to reconnect and be in nature and just be grounded and centered in that way, because I can be in my home a lot as an introvert. And so that's something that I've been doing so that I can still connect and be in, community and be with like-minded people and people who do feel good and do work that feels good to, and it's nourishing to my spirit, right? But at the same time, I can come home, I can, regroup, I can center myself. And that's what I know that I need at this time. And so I am, keeping boundaries while still making time for those connections and being in community and being around people that I do feel comfortable and safe around at this time. And again, there are seasons where that's necessary. I feel like this is a season where that is necessary. I can see how much collective stress there is. And I think that the best thing we can do for ourselves is to choose to take care of ourselves, and setting boundaries is self love. It doesn't mean that you dislike the other people, you don't care about the people in your life. It just means that you are prioritizing taking care of yourself. And when you do that, you are able to show up even healthier, even better. Like when I do show up, when I do go see friends, when I do go into community, I can show up as my best self because I am taking the time to set boundaries, to protect my energy, and to focus on what it is that I need. And so, coupled with that, I can't recommend enough stillness, quietness. There is so much noise. And if you have a neurospicy brain like me, it is incredibly overwhelming. Like I have really had to reduce my screen time. I work on a computer, so it's hard. But in terms of scrolling on social media, I really have felt called to step away a lot more frequently, again, to try to get outside, which I still need to work on doing on like a daily basis. But it's something that I felt called to do because I know that social media can be a tool for positivity and connection and community. But I think, especially during election seasons, it can be very overwhelming, anxiety ridden. And I think we don't think about this enough, but we can be picking up on other people's energies. I think if I open TikTok and someone is yelling at me about the election and stressing out, or like I feel that, and I know that we can choose, or I don't know if it's always conscious to take on other people's energy, right? But I think we have to recognize that it can influence us. It can influence us, and it can really set the tone for our day, especially if that's like the first thing we think to do in the morning, which is a habit that I've been breaking. Instead of immediately scrolling on my phone in the morning, I always turn on like meditation music. And I try to have some stillness in my mind. And if I can't do that, because I do have a neurospicy brain, I will pray. I will set my affirmations and intentions for the day. I will call in what it is that I really want to see, even if I'm not feeling it. And the more that I do that, the more my emotions shift anyway. So it's really helpful for me. And I really have been prioritizing making time daily for stillness and meditation. And I think meditation looks different for everyone. So it doesn't have to be sitting quietly. It could be an active meditation. A lot of times I've meditated in the shower even, or while I'm cleaning, but just trying to quiet the noise because there's so much noise right now. So much noise from our families, from work, from our children if we have children, from our spouses and partners if we have those, from just the news, the media, social media. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I think we will drive ourselves absolutely crazy if we don't take time for stillness. And I think in doing so too, you can also connect inwards, connect with your intuition. And I think that is so pivotal in the times that we are living in and the seasons that we are shifting into as well. Like you need to reconnect with your inner guidance and your intuition because I think it's so imperative for us to be able to trust ourselves in the months and the years ahead, especially. And so I want to encourage that. I actually just had a meditation challenge on my Substack. If you follow me, I'm going to link to it in the show notes, but I did a free 30-day meditation challenge and I just shared just my thoughts, tips, resources. I share links to some of my favorite YouTube videos that I use for meditation. So I encourage you to go check that out if like that's something you've been maybe hoping to get into or explore, but you feel like you need some guidance. And again, I just want to remind you that meditation looks so different for each and every one of us. But I cannot recommend it enough, especially during times like these. And I also want to say that routines and establishing like small practices that get you through like small joys, something that you can look forward to every single day. That's something that I feel like I've kind of always done it, but I've been more intentional about it recently. And I haven't like consistently stuck with like a very regimented morning or night routine, but there are certain things that I try to incorporate into my everyday practice. So meditation was one of them. Movement. Right now, I'm in a season of my menstrual cycle where my energy is low. And so I am incorporating more gentle movement. But then there are times where I want to go out and do something. So I did the gardening, for example, which is a great workout, by the way. So finding time to incorporate those things that I know make me feel good. And I have like a whole episode about like habits and the importance of that in my own mental health recovery journey and practicing a little bit of like opposite action and forcing myself when I am experiencing really low depressive episodes. Um, Taking my supplements every day is a huge one. I've been very consistent and it's definitely been noticeable, especially like with the vitamin D, because my depression has really lifted. And so do not underestimate what like supplements and a healthy diet can do for you in terms of your mental health, and especially in like the winter months, which I know can be a struggle for a lot of people. But like those little things. And for me, I'm a huge K-pop fan, so I literally have to like schedule time. Like once I know I'm done with the bulk of my work for the day and my little is taken care of and fed, I'm like, okay, it's K-pop time. I'm gonna go sit and watch K-pop for like 30 minutes, an hour, maybe longer, probably longer. And that's what makes me feel good. And so I think that we should also kind of release judgment and release this like constant need to be productive as well, because or maybe instead of releasing it, I should say reframing it, right? It's productive if it's helping you heal. Truly, it is. I think a lot of times we get stuck in societal standards of what is productive. Like, what does that mean? And a lot of times, productivity, the way that it's communicated more broadly, is connected to work, right? We are decolonizing over here. I don't know about you guys, but we are decolonizing over here. Rest is productive. Your body literally needs it to function. You can show up as the best version of yourself. You can make the most out of however many hours you have in the day to actually do work. Not that I think that that's like the most important thing in life, because it's definitely not to me anyway. It can be though if it's purposeful to you, but I just want to say that there's so many other things that can be considered productive. If it's something that is tending to your own mental health and well-being and wellness, then it's productive. Rest is productive. Doing things that you enjoy, that make you feel good, that lift your energy, That is productive. We need more of that. So many people right now are living in fear, and the last thing we need is more people living in fear and anxiety. So if you choose to do something that's going to shift your energy, you're doing the whole world a favor, because you then can show up from a place of love and joy, and that is what the world needs. So if you did something today that actually makes you happy and feel good, and then you go into the world and you're able to spread your light, you did something for everybody by doing something for yourself. And I want you to start to reframe the things that you think are lazy or whatever as productive, if you know that they're actually it's the greatest good for not only for yourself but for your family and those around you. Just think of how many times that you've neglected yourself, or you've neglected to do something you really enjoy, and then you went off, you were in a pissy mood, you snapped on all your kids, you snapped on your friends or family members, you had a terrible day, and now they're mad at you, now they're having a terrible day. Like, that cycle can continue if we let it. So why not just do the things that you actually enjoy? And again, I want to acknowledge that we don't all have the same opportunities, experience. I know I'm very privileged because I can work from home. And so I'm not talking to the people who literally don't have time. I get it. I completely understand. I have been there. Trust me, I have been there. And for you, I say that the moments you can get, please take them. Please. But I'm talking about those of you who literally have the time. Do it. If you know you have the time, just do it. Read the book you've been wanting to read. Go to the store you've been wanting to go to. Buy the candle you've been wanting to buy. Play the video game you wanted to play. Like, just do the thing, the small thing that you know is going to lift your energy and make you feel better, because you're shifting everything around you when you do that. I truly believe that. I believe it's a ripple effect when we shift our energy to a higher state. And so I want to encourage that, because I feel like I can see so quickly right now what happens when I do those things. When I react out of anger and frustration, the immediate consequences that come from that, versus when I choose to be like, okay, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to do something I know is going to help my spirit or make me feel good. Then I'm going to approach the situation. Game changer. It's been helping me so much. And I work in media, by the way, so I have to read the news. So if I'm reading the news and I'm like, I can't do this anymore, I'm getting riled up, I take a step back. I make some tea. I take a bath. I maybe watch some K-pop. You know, when I know that it's getting too much for me, I just take a step back. I do the thing that I know helps me, or the things, plural, that I know helps me. I take a bath. I journal. I watch K-pop. Play video games, cozy games, whatever it is, right? Whatever works for you. That's so important. So, yeah, I can't really encourage that enough, honestly. And I also just want to say that right now it can be really hard to trust and believe that good things are happening or good things are coming when, especially in your external environment and world, you see quite the opposite, right? But truly hold on to hope. Really look for the opportunities to see the good in the world and to focus on that, because you can easily spiral and get sucked into all of the fear that's circulating right now. It can be really easy. And so I can acknowledge the things that I don't like about all the circumstances in the world right now. But at the end of the day, I remind myself that I'm healthy, my son is healthy, I am loved. And even though there are challenges in my life, there are also good things in my life. And it is possible for me to see both of those things. I don't have to just be hyperfixated on one or the other. It doesn't even have to be, I'm again not a toxic positivity person. It's both, it's a balance. And so I think as long as you are making a concerted effort to keep that balance, we will get through this together. um, and so, yeah, I'll leave you with that. I'm sorry for any and all technical difficulties that arose in this episode, because I have been having a lot of tech issues. And I just feel like a lot of things have been stopping me from this, like keeping me from this podcast. But I'm not going to let it. So I so appreciate you if you listen to this episode up until now and you get to see my face because it is a video episode. So hello. I'm going to post this on YouTube and get my episodes updated there. So subscribe to my YouTube and follow me on Instagram and TikTok at links will be in the show notes. Let's just stay connected. Please share like how you're feeling at this time and like what's been helping you in the comments, and I will leave you. I hope that you're all well and stay safe and stay blessed, and I'm sending good energy to you. Till next time. Bye.